And away we go. It's the DFS Early Bird right here from Awesemo.com. Dan Strafford, Dave Lockren along with you on this Wednesday morning. A 12-game NBA slate is on tap. Dave, how the hell are you doing?
Not bad, man. Last couple nights in NBA. Fortunately, it was a good NFL week. Last couple nights in NBA, not too great. John Wall just totally dumped all over me, and Rodions Kurucs decided he didn't feel like playing. Some foul trouble, this, that, and the other thing. We had some of them were good. Bradley Beal was solid. Lonzo was good. John Collins, even despite the foul trouble, was fine again. Dwayne Dedman on Yahoo, where everyone's free, was good. LeBron, of course, solid. But I had a lot of John Wall, a good amount of Kurucs, especially because I did play a decent amount on Yahoo, and that didn't help. So yeah, it was one of those nights. It's not totally over yet. We still got that last game going, but it's not going to end particularly well. Can assure you of that.
It is funny how you can project those things out, but the fun of daily fantasy, even though I will say playing daily fantasy, you want to look at it as a season-long endeavor. We get to turn the page and forget about Tuesday night. Look forward to what is going to be a Wednesday night 12-game slate, a deep one, obviously, when we have this many games on tap. I do also want to remind you, we're in the home stretch of our 24 days of giveaways, a gift from us at Awesemo.com to you this holiday season. We have our biggest prize yet, a free month all-access pass for all our premium content at Awesemo.com. That means you'll receive all the NFL rankings and ownership from Awesemo. You get Josh's rankings. You get the projections for NBA from Andrew and from Josh as well. You get Jake Harry's best-in-class NHL projections. You get Homer Cleese. You get the whole kit and caboodle, as they say. All you need to do is rate this podcast on iTunes and leave a comment. And that comment can be whatever the hell you choose. I will give you a question before small forward, and I promise it will be before small forward that you can answer as well. But whatever you would like for that comment to be, do the same on YouTube. We got a ton of views on the pod on Monday on YouTube. Thanks so much to everyone who subs over there and takes the time to watch a video that just has audio. I appreciate that.
I don't think they're watching it the whole time.
You don't say, Luffy. You don't say.
I don't know. It's a hunch.
You are an astute man. I would agree.
If they are, they got to get much better at multitasking.
Oh, this picture of Enes Kanter is really riveting. I'm going to stare at this for 38 minutes. Have fun figuring out the cover guy. I like to take what Lofty and I talk about and try to figure up a new cover each time. It was the fun when DFS when I first broke into the content side about 5-6 years ago, the articles always had the cover guy. Like you had to choose. It was a big thing.
Yeah.
Like
you would submit when I would write an article.
Yep.
Each day I would submit who I wanted him to be to the graphics guy.
Because there's implications. Like
actually, you know what? No, that's not true. I would just pull one off of Google Images.
You would do it yourself.
And then once I forget where else it was, you would tell someone and they would like put something together real quick. But for years, I mean, I was at the fake basketball and that was how it worked every day. And I remember talking to Chet, good guy. He ran all the fake, sites. And I'm pretty sure. Yeah. I think he owned all of them. I know the fake basketball. And he would just be like, yeah, I mean, we're so small. No one's, they're not coming for us. And that's pretty much how it carried over to other sites as well. Yeah, you're right. We have the cover boy, we called him for every single one.
So I've had some fun playing with that. We'll see who it is by the end of this episode. And feel free to comment on that or whatever you so choose on YouTube. Subscribe to the channel and make sure to leave a comment, leave a thumbs up as well for this video specifically. Pardon me. And that will get you entered into this month drawing, and that gets you a month of all access. And then on Christmas morning, I've heard, Josh will be the one to poll the winner of a 365-day full access pass to Awesemo.com. You get everything except for the Fantasy Cruncher add-on. So that is an add-on subscription, but you get all of the content from Awesemo. Alex, as you may know him, Josh and Andrew and Lofty and Adam and EMAC, and you go on down the line of all the content contributors in all the different sports, throw in Ed and all the rest. So lots available there to you. We have a 12-game slate. Want to get right into it here. We're going to do very high level. We're going to give you some plays at each position, give you a sense of where Lofty would be looking if he was writing the deep dive on Wednesday. It is, in fact, Adam writing the deep dive, so you'll get that from Adam sometime around 6:55 I kid. You'll get it around 3:30, 4 o'clock. And you'll have the write-up from Adam, and then you get the deeper dive at 5 p.m. And then, of course, you get live before lock, leading you up to lock with Ed Fear and Spags and or Josh. You need to double-check the schedule. But without belaboring any further, it seems as though the injuries have slowed a bit here, Lofty. We seem to have most teams on the mend. You have your typicals of Kevin Love out. Kyle Lowry, last I saw, was listed as questionable with a thigh injury. I know that there was Mike Conley dealing with, I think, a hamstring, right? A hamstring heading into Wednesday's game here with Portland in Portland. Those are the big ones I saw. Any names that cross your radar, maybe in the mid-tier or cheaper level, that can influence some plays, or guys that you have an eye on from an injury perspective?
I mean, Mitchell Robinson is out again, and again, like with Cantor, it's obviously tough to say what we're going to get with him on a nightly basis, but not being on the second of a back-to-back definitely helps. So I think with Mitchell Robinson out here, we're probably going to get a good amount of run from Cantor once again. Last game, he didn't play. What did he play? 27 minutes. But like I said, he still gave you 37 fantasy points. So, he's not winning the night for you, but he's definitely not losing it. His price hasn't come up that much. Not on a back-to-back. He's had a day of rest. I think you see his minutes come back up here. Also, they got blown out by 18 points in that game. So you would think that, once again, Cantor's minutes should be perfectly stable here. I will say quickly, if you looked at his rotation in that game, he played 10 and a half minutes in the first quarter, and then he played 7 in the second. So that's 17 minutes right there. And then he played 6.5 in the third quarter, and he only played three and a half minutes in the fourth. So the blowout didn't help. They were down by like 18 to 23 throughout the entirety of the fourth quarter. So that really, to me, it signifies that you're going to see some more run. And that was just because Luke Cornett needed a break because he was out there cleaning everything up with mop-up duty. So Mitchell Robinson's out. Tim Hardaway is still questionable with that heel injury. Damian Dotson is doubtful. Alonzo Trier is out. So those are a lot of injuries for New York. I know Adam will break down the rotation in the article, and I'll break it down in the strategy show a little bit more in depth, but we don't have all the time in the world here. Jordan Clarkson's questionable. I think he should be all right. I mean, it's seeming like he had back issues, but it was also for rest purposes on the first of a back-to-back. Al Horford's still out. Jaylen Brown is questionable. As you mentioned, Kyle Lowry. Serge Ibaka with that knee swelling is also questionable. The big ones, Mirotic and Randall, are both out for the Pelicans. Both Mirotic and Randall are out of this one. It's not the greatest matchup, but against Milwaukee, but you're pretty much just playing Anthony Davis regardless. Ersan Ilyasova on the other side of that one's out. Jeff Teague is out. So now there's still a lot of injuries, Dan. Zach LaVine is still out. Alan Crabb questionable. And then Amon Shumpert, Bogdan Bogdanovic are both questionable for Sacramento. We know Marvin Bagley's already out. Mike Conley's questionable. There's a lot. There's a lot.
Is it a Solomon Hill night? Is it a Check Diallo night? This is going to be fun. I
honestly, someone has to get to work, right?
Yep.
And you just, given that Randall, Mirotic, and Davis, or Randall Mirotic outside of Davis soak up like almost all of those minutes in the front court. So it's definitely going to be interesting to see where it comes from. You have to think that Diallo is going to get run here, but you know what? We'll get into it. We'll see who it's going to be, but it only makes sense that Diallo gets run. The problem is, Dan, that if you look on DraftKings, he is 4,500, up from 4K flat. So DraftKings decided that they were going to bump his salary $1,500 because of this, and they had the time to do it.
All right. Worthwhile to keep an eye on all of that, as well as diving right in. As I've said, it's a preliminary look. We'll see where Dave is initially seeing the best plays, but obviously you get the deep dive from Adam and then the deeper dive from Adam and Dave later on, where you'll get much more up and timely information as lineups come out and injury news throughout the day. So we do have Harden at the top against Washington at 11-4, Westbrook here against Sacramento at 11 flat, Curry sub 10K dropping to 9,500. Then you get Wall, Irving, and Lillard, Simmons, Booker, Holiday, Oladipo, and Walker. Chris Paul rounds out our 8K and above group. Paul with a solid matchup, as does obviously James Harden at the top. In between, tons of good matchups for top-end talent. Who are some of the favorite names that pop off the page here, Dave, without naming pretty much everybody, as there's some really solid matchups here for the top end of point guard?
Sure, I don't intend on naming everyone. I prefer not to do that because I'm doing no one any favors when I do. Right? Let's name all the players, and hopefully I'll get
hope for the best.
Hopefully I'll get some of them right, and then that works out great. But it helps nobody. So, Russell Westbrook, dude, I don't know how many times I got to say it, and I'll keep saying it. This dude has 13 real points in 3 straight games, with fantasy point totals of 52.5, 55.2, and 62. So you're like, oh, well, that's not really great for Westbrook. No, it's not. But the point is that 13 points in a game with 52, 55, and 62 is ridiculous, right? Like, absolutely ridiculous. So it's only a matter of time. By the way, here's a cool stat. Russell Westbrook has more steals than made field goals over his last 3 games.
How many turnovers? Does that all?
12 turnovers, which isn't that bad for a game.
Not for him, no.
12 turnovers, 15 steals, and 14 made field goals.
It's impressive.
I mean, not really. One of them is, one of them isn't. One of them's really impressive. One of them is. Look, I'm going to keep going here. The guy we just put up 60 plus fantasy points with 13 points. It's amazing. The game is coming, and I'm gonna why jump off now? He didn't kill me. He didn't kill me against Chicago with 62 fantasy points. Only played 32 minutes in the blowout. Sacramento is playing better. All of their starters got the entire night off, save for Buddy Hield, because Dave Yeager decided that he literally wasn't going to play De'Aaron Fox or Bjelica after their first rotation. Bogdanovich came back in for one short one, but he only played 10 total minutes. Fox played 6. Bjelica played 5. Willie Cauley-Stein played like 7. The starters, not named Hield, played a total of 29 minutes. Just such a joke, man. But they're at home now. He can't pull that shit here. And I mean, he can, but I don't think he will. And OKC plays very solid defense, but this game has a 5-point spread, Dan. What I like the most, it's got a 236 total. So, both of these teams playing at an elevated pace this season. Kings second fastest, Thunder fifth fastest, both averaging over 103 possessions per 48. I love Westbrook here. I love De'Aaron Fox here, who people are going to be salty on after he posted 0.7 fantasy points across 6 minutes last game. That won't do people well. This is just a really favorable game for fantasy purposes, and I like it quite a bit. I even think Dennis Schroeder, as somebody off the bench, is still too cheap. You're getting him at 5,500 on DraftKings. Look, he's come back down to earth, but he still has 25+% usage, and that's since Russell Westbrook has returned. So lots of good plays here. Chris Paul, the price is a little bit rich for me. That's a tough one to pull the trigger on. I think I'd rather just pay up for Harden. It's going to be tough because you have Westbrook in a great spot, Harden in a really good spot. But hey, look, the Wizards just lost to the Atlanta Hawks. Trevor Ariza had a nice game, but John Wall clearly was doing something he probably shouldn't have prior to this one in Atlanta. A lot of foul trouble, bad game. Bradley Beal and Ariza's big games couldn't put him over the hump. It was just another poor performance against the bad Hawks team, and now they're playing their second of a back-to-back on the road against a Houston team that's finally finding their groove. And despite all of their struggles this year, still has one of the best offensive ratings in the league. So yeah, that's a good spot for Harden. I like him and Westbrook both quite a bit, and we haven't even talked about Anthony Davis yet, right? It's just as you mentioned, you don't want to name everybody, you don't, but it's a really good spot for a lot of these guys, like Kemba Walker at 8,400 against Cleveland. The blowout risk there with Cleveland on a back-to-back after winning that game on the road against Indiana. I think it's a big letdown spot for them, Dan. They're 12-point dogs. That would be my one concern about Kemba. One reason that I might not be as high on him, because I do think it's a huge letdown spot for Cleveland. I expect them to get torched in this one. Who else here? It's ridiculous how many good plays there are at the position. I think we got most of them. We're obviously not going to be able to hit on all of them throughout the show. You Kyrie Irving against Phoenix, another game where I don't think anyone would be surprised to see that one end abruptly. They're 12-point favorites as well. Devin Booker being back helps them offensively, and I think Irving still has the tournament upside to get it done. But I do worry, of course, a little bit about a blowout. And the reason I say that, it's a 12-game slate, so on a 12-game slate, you can make exceptions. You don't have to make those type of sacrifices that you would on the shorter slates. And then Derrick Rose with Jeff, with Jeff Teague out of the lineup, that'll help him out. Now, he only played 24 minutes, had 33 fantasy points, 11 assists, 13 rebounds. His potential assists and his assist rate subsequently are going to go up a lot with Teague out. And again, that was a blowout. He's going to play 33, 30, 35 minutes in a close game. And I expect this game to stay competitive.
That was the one game I was holding in the back pocket here between Rose and some of the cheaper guys with Teague out, whether or not you saw any value in Tyus Jones or the like. But
it's
Rose,
just tough to know it's tough to get a firm grasp of what these minutes will look like because of that blowout,
yep.
Right? I can tell you this, though, not to labor the point or belabor the point, but Tyus Jones played 3.5 minutes in the first quarter and then 6 in the second. So he played like 9.5 minutes in the first half and would have played that much in the second half. So he would have played about 18 minutes, Dan. But then he saw an additional 6 minutes of blowout run with Nunnally, Tolliver, and Luol Deng at the end of that game. So that was certainly, he played the whole fourth quarter and he played the last 2 minutes of the third. So not all blowout run, sorry, but 18 minutes looks like that's what we should expect from him. Maybe 20, but definitely not 24 or more.
Makes sense. Let's keep it there for point guard. I think there's a lot of content still to be had, but lots of minutes to be figured out and things to sort through. You'll get Adam's deep dive, as I've said. We're going to hit shooting guard next, where obviously you have Harden and Curry at the top, 11-4 and 9-5 respectively. Devin Booker has made his way back from injury, has been playing fairly well, if not very well, for Phoenix in the few games back on the 15th and 17th, put up 45-plus fantasy points in both. He's at 8,700 at shooting guard. Drew Holiday Oladipo, also back from injury, has been very solid as of late. You got Beal, D'Angelo Russell has been. The Nets, how about the Nets? Like, the Nets are
won 6 or 7 straight. It's insane. And they've beaten Toronto and Philly over that stretch. It's wild. And then they just beat, and the Lakers today.
You're getting it with just really solid play all around. It's not as if it's hero ball in any way. Dinwiddie and Russell and Jared Allen's playing really solidly. And
you know what it proves, Dan? It proves that a solid bench unit is so much more important. Not than people think, but like, remember, OKC could never make deep runs because their bench was so weak. We've seen that with a lot of teams over the years. Brooklyn's bench, as you mentioned, no star power. Clippers are very similar. No star power. But you have Dinwiddie and Carroll's a good enough defender. Even like glue guys in the starting lineup like Joe Harris. Ed Davis is a decent backup 5. Like, their bench has been good enough to get the job done, no question. There's no star power. You're right, but dude, they're winning games and their defense has even looked better recently.
Yeah, and it's a good point there of, and listen, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but you're spending an extra X number of dollars on a third star versus 4 bench players who all help that second unit being the best second unit in basketball, does that win you more games? Like that,
Right.
does that
In the
net
regular
out?
season,
Yeah.
I think. In the regular season, yeah, I think so. But then once you get into the postseason and you can run your studs for like 40 plus minutes a game, kind of just all out mentality, I think it probably changes. But in the regular season, no question.
Yeah, it's a crazy math problem there. I think it's the same thing baseball teams run into with the middle reliever, the star power at middle
Yeah.
reliever versus the star power in the rotation, especially now how that's flipped.
Well, even National League teams with your pinch hitters, right? Like when you get deeper into a game, you see teams you run out of bodies or even having a couple decent bench guys that can come in and pinch hit in big situations, even if it's your first or second guy. So many teams don't have them, and it kills them in the NL too.
All right, let's continue on here at shooting guard as we roll through lots of names that seem to be in decent spots. You've already touched on Hardaway being questionable and some of the other injuries here. Who are some of the shooting guards that stand off the page for you right now? Starting with Harden at the top here against the Washington Wizards.
Yep, and by the way, we're not going to get into all of your scenarios here. We can't do all of them. It'll be too much to say. This guy, if this guy isn't in play, the bigger ones we'll definitely touch on, but I don't think we can get to all of them. And by the way, Dan, Chris Dunn, we can mention him here because he has shooting guard eligibility. He's still 6,300. Played 26 minutes in that blowout. Not a great game, but with Zach LaVine out, this is a home game against Brooklyn, a Brooklyn team that's playing their second of a back-to-back. I know I know we just said all of that great stuff about Brooklyn, but I think their win streak snaps tonight at the hands of Chicago.
Wow.
Yeah. Hey, dude, I called the Phoenix Suns outright win over Dallas.
Yeah,
I'm gonna keep this one rolling. It makes a lot of sense to me. They're only 1.5-point favorites. They're, again, second of a back-to-back on the road. Chicago's not a good basketball team, but it's an 82-game season. You see this stuff happen all the time. This just feels like the type of game. Brooklyn coming off a win over LeBron James. Oh, yeah, man. Oh, yeah, this is. But you know what? I always stress this point. It doesn't matter if I'm wrong and Chicago doesn't win, as long as it stays close. That's all we're hoping for, right? And this game, there's no reason it shouldn't stay close unless the Bulls blow them out. How about that? No, I mean, I don't think that'll happen. But Chris Dunn at this price point and with shooting guard eligibility is a really nice play. He played 36 minutes in a close game against San Antonio, so I have no reservations about him being able to play big minutes in this game. I say just keep running him out there. At the top of the position, you mentioned James Harden. We talked about him. He's just a phenomenal play. He's been going off, and it's not even about him going off as much as who he's done it against. Right? The Lakers, whatever, 86. Yeah, amazing game. Doesn't matter who you're playing. But then he dropped 70 fantasy points against Memphis, the slowest paced team in the league with the top 6 defense, and then against Utah, that plays at a bottom 10 pace and has the third best defense since the start of December, and he had 47 real points. I mean, the guy's just an absolute stud, and we know that, and he's worth the price. And you know what? Chris Paul is not holding him back at all right now. I still really like Westbrook, though. I really like Westbrook, and we'll get to Davis, but how do you not like Harden? If you're max entering, you're trying to get some of all of these guys in. It's funny. We did the podcast on Sunday night. Remember we talked about how every top shelf player had like red flags.
Yep.
Whether it was Giannis because of the matchup and he struggled against them a lot. And I actually take it into consideration when you have a long sample or a big sample. Westbrook with the blowout, Harden with the matchup, blah, blah. Well, it feels like all of these guys have no red flags. So that's something to consider. James Harden, Drew Holiday's a strong play here with no Randall, no Mirotic. I don't like the matchup, but again, does it matter? This is a big spot for Holiday. I'll pull up the numbers at some point, see what the usage is with Davis on and Randall and Mirotic off. But it's another just an opportunity spot is exactly what it is for him. Chris Middleton if this game is competitive, which I don't see any reason to believe it isn't, is still cheap. I don't love him here, though. I'm kind of taking a wait-and-see approach because I think there are other guys that are around the same price that I don't really need to roll the dice on him finally having a good game. And unlike Westbrook, when he doesn't have a good shooting game, it's hard for him to give you good numbers. Jeremy Lamb, though, at 5,800, I like a lot against Cleveland. I like his ceiling, and I actually like his floor here. We've got Rose and Dunn available. You mentioned Russell, but I don't think I want to pay for him on this slate. God, it's this slate. It's not just 12 games. It's a lot of really good players on a 12-game slate. The last guy I'll throw at you before we move on, Eric Gordon. Look, he's been terrible again, but I think his last good game actually came against Washington. I know San Antonio, but and that was with Chris Paul out. Don't get me wrong. But still, Gordon's playing a lot of minutes still, 39, 33, 31, 37. And he's still taking double-digit shots each night. His usage clearly down with Harden, or in the starting lineup with Harden and Paul. But he is cheap enough now that I think that he warrants some consideration. And the last one would be Josh Okogie. Okogie. If you're playing one of the cheap guys, you mentioned Tyus Jones earlier. If you're playing one of the cheap guys, I think I would rather go with Okogie. Because I think his minutes are I think there's a little bit more stability with those minutes. He played, instead of 9 minutes in the first half, he played 13 minutes in the first half. And I think that we could see that rotation pretty similar in this one.
Any interest in mid-tier? You mentioned Eric Gordon. I see Joe Harris is sort of sprung up to 5,100 with, I believe Crabbe is still out. Is his minutes secure enough and the matchup good enough, or is this just a guy that's too expensive at this point, north of 5K on DraftKings?
I don't know what he's at on Yahoo anymore, but he was minimum salary yesterday, along with a bevy of other players.
Their pricing is not.
It's not showing.
That's the word. Yeah, that's the word.
Yeah.
But that's a great point of, and I wanted to talk about this at the top, and I want to say it now, and forgive the pause here, but so often we talk about fantasy draft where you don't have to play catchers when it gets to Major League Baseball season. But we talk about these alternative sites beyond DraftKings and FanDuel, and you just need, play there. And take the promo codes, take the time though to see the value. Like take the time to see where these price points are. Don't just plug in your DraftKings lineup on Yahoo, and don't just plug in your FanDuel lineup on Fantasy Draft or whatever it is. Like, take that extra 20 minutes, half hour, an hour, whatever it is. Don't just throw the money away. Don't just throw it on there because there's overlay or because of the promotion. Take the time to learn the game. I hosted a fantasy podcast, what is now 10 years ago. And our big premise over and over again was know the rules. Know your league's rules and know the rules of the game you're playing on Yahoo. You see overlay, that's great. The promotion's working. We have a promo code. Use Awesemo to deposit. Absolutely. But just take the time to look at the rules, understand the scoring, and look at where the pricing is. So I just want to remind everyone of that before they just dive in and start slamming in guys at wrong price points. But
especially now that the pricing is getting
right.
The differences are getting exacerbated across sites, getting a lot more different. I agree with you. By the way, speaking of seasonal fantasy, I'm in the finals of my dynasty league, baby. It's a $3,000 prize pool. So this one, I'm gunning, man. I got to win this. I was an underdog, came out on top so far. I got to take it down, Dan.
Yeah, I think you do. I think you have to make that happen.
Got to take it down. Oh yeah.
All right, let's move.
I know we get off track a lot. I traded away Michael Thomas.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Did I mention this on the podcast?
You mentioned it to me, not on the podcast.
Okay, I don't want to repeat it. I traded away because it was so bad for me. I traded away Michael Thomas for Derrick Henry before Deion Lewis came around. So big difference. This was last year.
Yep.
So I traded for a 2018 first, already had it, and then a 2019 first. And Derrick Henry, he got Michael Thomas, and I forget one more throwaway player to even, and Derrick Henry was terrible all season. Michael Thomas, obviously, just through the first 6-8 weeks was unbelievable. Definitely come back down to earth lately. But, the trade, the two-player trade didn't look good at all for me because, Henry was terrible. But at least I had, and the 2 first-rounders, which was really nice. I may have given him a second to even it out. I don't remember, but it still at the time was great. And without Lewis, and then it went really downhill. Well, it's funny how it came full circle. Week 14, I don't play Henry. Obviously, why would I? But week 15, last minute, I throw him in over Aaron Jones. I said, better matchup. Deion Lewis has been playing terrible. He's wearing down. Henry's coming off a huge game. There's no reason not to give him the workload in a bad weather game against a bad defense and a team that can't score in the Giants. I'm plugging in Henry, and this is in the semifinals. I'm just doing it. Got to make a power move here. I win by 5 points, and I won on the back of Henry. Jones had 1 point. The guy I beat was the guy I traded Mike Thomas to, and his last player trying to catch me, of course, on Monday Night Football was Michael Thomas, who came up short with another subpar game. I just thought it's a funny story how all of that came full circle.
So that's our question. We head to small forward. What's your bad beat season-long fantasy football story? It doesn't have to be long.
It has to have one.
It can just be a quick write up on it, or if you want to give us a diatribe to vent, feel free as well. And as always, you can comment whatever the hell you want, like on YouTube, on iTunes. I love to hear what you like about Dave and I, Emac and Adam, the night shift as it was before we were here, or any of the shows Dave and I have done together in past iterations of this partnership. Leave those comments as well. Leave a hi, a hello, whatever it might be. Those aren't going to get read here on the podcast, but we'd be happy to hear from you. So I said I'd get it to you before small forward. There it is. Small forward is up next. A position that I've struggled a bit with. You have Giannis at the top, KD here at 9.4, then Kawhi at 9.2, Paul George, Ben Simmons, DeRozan here. Jimmy Butler's at 7,200 against the Knicks. That spread has to be in the double digits, right?
Against the Knicks?
Oh, it's not out yet. Is that? Do you have a line on it?
No, we're waiting on Hardaway.
Oh, really? I don't know that I would have ever valued. I didn't value the Hardaway at the contract the Knicks signed him to, but I don't know if I'd value Hardaway at needing his word whether or not he was playing.
Every point matters, though, right?
I suppose. Middleton is here at 6,500. You mentioned Hardaway is at 65 as well. And then Rudy Gay healed at 62 is small forward eligibility. What do you got here? An intriguing position at the top end where you have Giannis at 11-1, KD, Leonard, George, Simmons, all talented players, DeRozan, Butler, down to 7,200. So a wide gap of over $4,000 separates you from top to 7K here. What do you got as some of your favorite plays?
All right. I think you'd agree this right now, at least through two positions, is one of the deeper slates we've had in a long time.
Yeah,
and now
you
have Giannis Antetokounmpo in a great spot. I mean, yes, Davis can play solid defense, no question. But when you look at several factors here, you take the pace. New Orleans top 6 in pace, significant pace up spot for the Bucks. And if you were to take, or I'm sorry, not a significant pace up spot, but a team that's going to match their pace and a game that's going to see a whole lot of scoring, because the Bucks are playing at a fast pace this year as well. Actually, I had it filtered by home. I can't imagine it's that much different. Bucks 5th in pace on the season, Pelicans 4th overall, pretty much playing at an identical pace. And this game has what's the total on this, Dan? 233.
Yep.
I mean, Giannis just in a phenomenal spot. You have already Westbrook, Harden, Giannis, Anthony Davis. You're going to have to spread it out. I don't know if you want to just I don't know if you really just want to take a stand on one specific player if you're playing a lot of lineups, like one specific high-end guy. You're definitely going to have to take a stand on not playing, equal parts of all of them, I would assume, or because you're not going to be able to. There's so many good ones, but you're going to have to take a stand somewhere. Giannis is a tough one for me to just say, yeah, I don't think I want to go there, because he has, when you talk upside, as much as literally anybody, as much as anyone, especially with Davis, Westbrook, and Harden all in favorable spots as well. Outside of that, though, I'm going back to Bjelica, Dan. Jaeger rested all of his play. I don't see any reason he's not going to do this again, especially because they're at home. That would just honestly he'd be asking to get fired, I feel like, if that was the case. Just, you have all these paying fans, and it's like, hey, screw you guys, bench players coming in. Right? Get ready for 30 minutes of Justin Jackson. Right? That's what you paid to come for. The damn fan base has been in utter misery for years now. Bielitsa, I'm going back there. He's still too cheap. You're still getting him in a good discount. There's no Marvin Bagley. It's good. And Bogdanovich, if Shumpert is out and he plays, is also an interesting play. But I definitely would prefer the savings on Bielitsa here, because it's not the best matchup from a defensive standpoint. But in that same breath, it's a 236 total, the highest on the slate. There's no way we don't like this here. With Kawhi Leonard, like even if Lowry is out, I don't know how much I can get to. It's not even that he's crazy overpriced, but if you play him, unless a ton of value opens up, it pretty much means that you are getting away from one of Giannis or Westbrook or Harden or Davis. Sure. And does Kawhi go 60 plus once in a while? Yes, but Giannis, Davis, Westbrook, and Harden go 85 plus once in a while. And in the grand scheme of things, paying that extra 1,800 or 2K is not that crazy when it's just one player and you're not trying to stack both of them. Yeah, I think it'd be fine. It's not the worst matchup, but it's not the best one either. The Pacers play strong D. They are on the second of a back-to-back coming off that tough loss to Cleveland, but still, I have trouble getting on board with that just because of the depth around him. It makes it difficult. And then outside of him, though, Dan, it's a lot of MPE guys like Gordon in tournaments, Okogie. Man, it's Okogie. Damn it. I'm gonna train myself. I don't say it enough because we never talk about him. I think as just a pure punt, he's fine. Is he gonna get you 30? Probably not. But if he gets you 23 and you do find a way to get two top shelf guys into your lineup, that could definitely be enough, given their matchups in those above 10K guys. But I don't know, man. We talked about Lamb. Is there anyone that stands out to you as a really good play? Not just somebody, and obviously someone we haven't talked about yet, but is there anyone here value-wise or maybe mid-range that stands out to you? Because I have one more, and then I'm done. And his name is Trevor Ariza.
Sure.
Adam and I mentioned on the deep dive, and then I want to get your take on this, that I said I had Ariza projected for 36 minutes. Adam said he hasn't projected for 36 minutes. And both of us basically at the same time said, but that might be a conservative estimate based on how Scott Brooks loves to run his players into the ground. And they wouldn't sign Trevor Ariza if he wasn't going to keep playing 38, 40 minutes like he does every night with any team he's with. Well, he played 38 minutes. Is it a back-to-back? Yeah, it's a back-to-back. But he's $4,500 on DraftKings. He's coming off a 19.8 rebound, 4 assists, 6 steal game. He took 17 shots, though, Dan. Now, Wall was out of the lineup for about 14 minutes more than he would normally be, 12 to 14 minutes. But I still think Ariza is a really good value play at 4,500 against his former team. Not that I care too much about that, but I care about the fact that I think this game also is going to stay at least close enough. Houston 11-point favorites, but coming off a loss to Atlanta, I think I think this game will actually stay close at least until the fourth quarter. And Ariza's just too cheap. If he gets 38 plus minutes, how do you not play him at that price point? Honestly.
Yeah, you have Ariza and Eric Gordon right there next to each other, and I think that's where.
Yeah, and I'd rather have Ariza, honestly.
Yep. I think the peripherals make a lot more sense there with Ariza as your upside play at small forward. Let's talk power forwards next. Making our way through, and by the way, Lofty, disappointed. It's just Josh Okogie. It's really straightforward. I know
I got it right once I corrected.
I know you and pronunciations don't really mesh, and I'm here for that.
Oh, stop it! Don't do not play that card.
Oh, that card has been played. Power forward is next. We start obviously with AD, Giannis. Eligible here. We talked about both already, so I don't know that we have to necessarily belabor the top end. But you do have Blake, Kawhi, Paul George, LaMarcus Aldridge, Markkanen at 7,400. I will start the engines and the victory lap now for recommending him. TJ Warren, Sabonis, Tatum, tons of names, but not necessarily options. It feels like, again, power forward has not given us a ton here, even on a 12-game slate. Top end feels okay, but beyond that, don't know what I feel most comfortable with. What do you got here at power forward?
So we do have Bielitsa here. That's good when I'm talking DraftKings, but we also have Trevor Ariza here, so that's cool. If you think Diallo is going to get the minutes, that's God, it's really tough for me because Alvin Gentry really has not wanted to play him all that much. You know, we haven't seen him get a significant amount of run very often. You know, he kind of locks into that 15 to 20 minute role, depending on who's in, who's out, and, you know, who's in foul trouble or whatever. But he is a fantasy point per minute guy, 10.5 fantasy points in 10 minutes per game this year. So he's above a fantasy point per minute. I don't know. Is Alvin Gentry, is he going to want a specific player out there against someone like Brook Lopez, who's going to be jacking up a lot of threes? And Diallo's fine with that. He's 6'9", 220. He's not a traditional hulking, you know, big man, so that's not a concern. I don't think he's crazy. I don't think he's a crazy play, but I'm not even remotely as attracted to him as I would be if he was his actual price, which he's been for a while at $3K. You know, they jacked it up. And look, I'm fine with that. He would have been probably like 80% on. He wouldn't be because people still miss these things.
Yep.
But he would definitely be at the top. Bobby Portis last game played 23 minutes, but they got blown out towards the end, and I don't have much interest there. I just wanted to throw it out there because I'm sure we'll get some questions about that. There is value, especially with multi-position eligibility. Jeremy Grant, another one at 4,500. He is, you know, getting 30-plus minutes a game. The production is very inconsistent, but this game, again, has the highest total on the slate. And, you know, he's facing a Sacramento team that plays at the second fastest pace in the league and defensively is middle of the road at best. So that's where I'm going for value. I think you'll probably want to stick in that range. I don't see any mid-range guys. Maybe you do, that stand out to me. Markkanen is fine, but his price is starting to get up there on DraftKings at least. So I don't think you need to go there. Tournament play, fine, but you're getting to a point where it's going to be hard for him to hit that ceiling and pay his price off. And then, of course, Anthony Davis. You know, Davis might just be a fade here because everyone loves the flavor of the week when there's injuries. And on a slate like this, if I'll put it simply, and then I'll move on. Here's the best way to look at it. If Davis is trending as, you know, the most high or the highest owned player, expected to be the highest owned player in that 11K plus range with Westbrook, Giannis, and Harden, then I will have no problem going elsewhere and pivoting to Harden at home against Washington, or Giannis at home against Davis's Pelicans, or Westbrook on the road in the highest projected scoring game of the night against Sacramento. So I think it makes sense to at least not get tunnel vision here and realize that just because Randall and Mirotic are out doesn't mean that other guys can't outproduce Davis.
That makes sense. It makes sense price point wise. You have to remember price matters, and you have to construct the rest of your lineup. It's not 1v1. You have to make everything work here as you go through. Let's close it out with some centers. Make some top plays here. What do you got? Embiid, 10-2. Karl Anthony Towns has obviously thrived a bit more with Jimmy Butler out of town. High 40s, low 50s, maybe even pushing some 60s on DraftKings from time to time. You get Drummond at 9-1, Vucevic at 9K, Gobert, Capella. Plenty of options here. Center is always deep. Who are some of your favorites?
Can't go to Embiid here. It just doesn't make sense. Not in this spot. Not that it's a bad matchup at all. It's actually a really solid matchup, but I don't see the need to go here with all of those great players. We've talked too much about that, but everyone understands. If Peter wasn't breathing down my neck, I'd say I don't want to beat a dead horse, but I won't. Yeah. Have you heard that grab the bull by the horns should now be grab the rose by its thorns?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, come on.
Right.
Instead of killing two birds with one stone, you feed two birds with one seed. Like, come on.
Oh, God. Yeah. Of course, metaphors involving animals mean that you condone the torture of animals.
Oh,
Man,
come
I'm the
on.
biggest
Every word you say, I take fully literally. I mean, come on.
Exactly. Man, I don't know if you'll find a bigger animal lover than myself. I felt remorse and regret when I killed an elk in Red Dead Redemption 2 the other day, and it was whimpering and moaning before I put it out of its misery. So
For those who don't know, that's a video game. So
yes. And an elk is an animal, not a person. But yeah, so that's that. The top's all right though, Dan. Like Carl Anthony Towns and Drummond. I like Towns more than Drummond here, and I think he's a very solid play. But once again, how easy is it going to be to prioritize him? And I don't think it's going to be that easy at all. I do think Willie Cauley-Stein, even though he has a really awful matchup, he's down below 6K. And I at least have some interest here. You know, he's averaging 30 fantasy points in 2 games against OKC. If this game, you know, does play as fast as it's projected to, and I don't see any reason why it wouldn't, he's still going to see elevated shot blocking opportunities and steals and obviously rebounds and assists. He's actually not a bad facilitator. So even the categories that he's not great at, he should see more opportunity with more possessions on both sides of the court. I think Cauley-Stein's fine. And obviously Cantor's another one, right? I think the minutes come back up. I think he plays 33 minutes here. And if that's the case, his per minute production makes him well worth the look. Now we get into some sketchy territory, so I won't spend too long here, but I do think Wendell Carter Jr., look, as he hit the rookie wall, we've seen it with Porzingis, we've seen it with Embiid, we've seen it with a lot of good rookie bigs, particularly centers, right? He's 4,800 though. He has power forward and center eligibility, and his minutes are down. I don't think anyone's going to play him. You know, if Wendell Carter Jr. does happen to get up to see more minutes, and, you know, granted, it does depend on what type of run Portis sees and if he gets run at the 5 or if Robin Lopez continues to play 17, 18 minutes per game. But 4,800, Wendell Carter Jr. has at least proven that he's very capable of producing good numbers and definitely paying off a very cheap salary. Aside from that, though, there's not much. I mean, I don't want to roll the dice on Markieff Morris right now because I'd rather go with Trevor Ariza at a cheaper price point, knowing that he's locked into big.
Totally.
Yeah, and that's, I think, on a slate like this, you can take risks, no question. You can run out some sketchy tournament plays, but one thing that I am going to try and do is really target the guys, because there are plenty of them and you don't have to go crazy. Target the guys that you know, especially at a higher price point, the guys that you know are going to get the minutes really regardless, unless it's a huge blowout or foul trouble, right? Barring any unforeseen circumstances, play the guys that you know the minutes are absolutely going to be there, because you can afford to be picky on this slate.
All right. That's where we are going to leave this podcast. Dave with some great content. You find him on the Deeper Dive on Wednesday. Typically, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, he has the Deep Dive on Wednesday. This Wednesday, Adam will have it. A little switcheroo there. You will get Dave on the NBA Strategy Show, which is typically around 9:15 a.m. Eastern Time each and every day. Josh Engelman hosting, and you get Dave and Adam switching on and off there. Don't forget also leave a comment, a rating. Subscribe to the podcast on iTunes. Do the same over on YouTube, and subscribe obviously on YouTube for all the great free Awesemo content. But you get entered into win a free month of Awesemo with a comment there, and you also get a entry into the drawing that will happen on Christmas Day, which will get you a free year of Awesemo content. Any sport, every projection, every ranking is available to you with winning that. So you'll want to comment and be entered into that. Comment on as many videos as you want. Each entry is worth, each comment is worth one entry, I should say. Find Dave on Twitter at Lofty_D, LOUGHY_D. Find me at Dan Trafford. That's Awesemo_com for the website we work for. With that said, we wish you the best of luck on Wednesday.
You're not going to ask me about my top guy.
Oh, right. Oh, I almost blew through it.
Trying to help you out here. You haven't forgotten it in a while. Actually, you haven't forgotten since you started.
The 17-month-old is screaming upstairs, so I got a little distracted. But you are correct.
I apologize.
No. You shouldn't. We give the people what they want or what I've promised them. Davis, Harden, Giannis, Westbrook, Embiid. I guess we almost automatically take Embiid out of the mix there, dependent on what you've already said about him. But you get AD, Harden, Giannis, Westbrook. Who do you got? 5-figure club here as somebody you would want to build around.
They're all excellent. We've talked about it a lot tonight. They're all excellent, or this morning, of course. I'm going to go with Westbrook. And the simple explanation is while Davis, Harden, and Giannis are all in good spots, all have that huge upside, Westbrook's shooting has to return at some point. 236 total, highest on the night. Sacramento Kings defense is not very good, but their offense is good enough to keep this game competitive. If Westbrook can drop 13 real points and 60-plus fantasy points with ease, then he's my guy. But I still will have some Giannis, Harden, and Davis, no question. Who do you have at the top?
I think it is Westbrook, and I think ownership will lead me there. I think the recent shooting struggles and the matchups for the other guys will spread ownership out, and I like Westbrook's upside here. I think this is the get right spot, as it were. So this could be near nuclear Westbrook for me.
I feel like that too.
So I think this is a floor of 55, 60, and I think it's an upside of 80, 85. I think it's legitimately that sort of game where we could see if the 3 drops for him, I think this is all of a sudden a 30. It's a triple-double with gigantic upside. So I'm right there, and I think, don't forget, I'm not someone who MMEs. I play a few lineups. If you are or if you aren't, you just want a better sense of ownership, Osmo provides that. So there's ownership projections. Are they, to the, 5th decimal point completely spot on? No. Are they very damn close most nights? Yes. And that will help you at least discern where ownership is leaning, where you may want to go for cash games for someone you may have ignored who's going to be highly owned, or on the other side, where you may want to go for the top end plays from a contrarian perspective, where maybe you get away from an AD on a 20% ownership night and get to a Westbrook at a 9% ownership night. Could be a huge difference. I think actually I got on Harden the other night on Yahoo because of the ownership showing he'd be lower owned. Got him at 8% in a couple of tournaments over there, which was nice when he had a very nice showing. So ownership matters. It's not something all of us consider on every given slate, but something at least to consider as you're trying to decide between 2 or 3 of the higher priced talents on each slate. With that said, you find Emac and Adam on this very same channel, very same podcast tomorrow morning. Dave and I are back with you Friday morning on through to Monday morning. Well, we'll decide that because Christmas Eve has no games, but we'll figure out exactly what we're bringing to you guys next week, and content-wise, we'll share that as well, and then be sure to pass that along. So with that said, wish you the best of luck right here from the DFS earlier.
You almost had it.
Almost got it.
Let's start the show over.
Just to re-rack it. It's the DFS Early Bird presented by Osmo.com. You better believe I'm leaving that in. That's a good one. That's a nice Easter egg.
Yeah. I would leave that.